Wednesday morning. It's McCollum on Business. I'm Stephen McCollum, and for the next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to get you updated on what's happening around the business world today. And shouldn't be a shocker if you're following world affairs, kind of what's happening out there with the market. Oil prices up about 4% today because of President Trump's comments this morning saying that the ceasefire with Iran is now over in his view. They'll continue to negotiate, obviously, as hostilities took off again yesterday out there. That's the big story as we're keeping our eyes on it as everything. Of course, we'll look at the market watch stocks we're paying attention to and your local and national stories that you need to know. And big story coming up here on your health care. If you're a part of the Affordable Care Act, and then your regular insurance, generally the Affordable Care Act look ahead numbers kind of tells us what insurance companies want to do overall this year. So pay attention to that coming up. First story of the day, but we start the show obviously with the market watch. And it's a tough day with the hostilities getting underway again over in Iran. Everything is down today. Oil prices, as I said, up about 4% today as well. Dow Jones, 502 points down right now, 52,390. Obviously falling kind of well below that 53,000 record level it was trading at yesterday. The S&P 500 is down to 35 points to 74.65. Nasdaq's down 82 points right now to 25,736. Shouldn't shock you, chip stocks falling again today as well with all the news out there. Russell 2K, that small cap index down to 15 points to 29.63 for that small cap index. And then you got Bitcoin. Yeah, coming back down here today, like everything else, down 1,410 points on the day, but back down to the low, 61,909 for Bitcoin here on this Wednesday. And folks, it's just going to be as tensions rising there between the U.S. and Iran. As I said, President Trump came out and said the ceasefire is over in his eyes. He said the U.S. will hit them hard tonight, was his exact words there as well. So the threat to bomb Iran again, the ceasefire being over, oil prices 4% up, 10-year Treasury yield up as well, 4.57% last I saw it about 10 minutes ago, also going up. So all of this, inflation fears are through the roof today, energy cost fears are through the roof today. All of that's happening on the market, causing all the red you see on your screen right now. So what's out there in terms of stocks? Well, obviously, there's some positivity today if you're an individual stockholder or some ETFs, and one of those is energy stocks. The first stock we're looking at today is Diamondback Energy. Shares of energy companies are up today for the most part. Oil prices up that 4%. Obviously, they make more money the more that oil costs. Well, Diamondback Energy is up 0.61% here today for them. Next one we're going to look at Chevron out there. Just really quick, we don't have graphs on these two as Chevron comes on your screen. APA Corporation, Occidental Petroleum, they're both up about 2% here today as well. We don't have the graphs on those, but more energy companies. Chevron's up 0.79% here today. And then ExxonMobil is the last one we're going to look at right now. It's actually down. It's kind of sold off here. 0.34%, 0.40% right now for ExxonMobil. But these energy stocks obviously expected to go up. Other stocks like airlines, cruise lines, they're all down today because of, no doubt about it, oil getting more expensive again, causing those stocks to go down, as that is a huge cost to those companies out there. So typical oil rising and 4% rise on oil in one day and what, a couple hours here in the morning. That is a huge number. We'll have to see if it settles down or oil just continues to go up throughout the day. Other things we'll pay attention to later on. We're going to look back at SpaceX. It's been a little bit since we looked at them, a couple weeks. Estee Lauder, the beauty manufacturer. We'll take a look at them. And then Rivian Automotive. We've already talked about them. Big presence down there in Casa Grande. Presence getting a little bit smaller these days down there with the layoffs they're doing. But we'll look at Rivian Automotive again, making some waves here on this Wednesday as well. But first, let's get into some stories looking ahead, folks. And just the way the day is going, Not a lot of good stories out there. There is a good one on Chick-fil-A coming up later on in the program. You're going to want to stick around for. But millions of Americans, prepare yourself now. If you're on the Affordable Care Act, and you obviously had the big increases this year, well, get ready for another double digit rate hikes next year on that marketplace. So it'll be another cost increase for health insurance. And, health insurance has become unaffordable for a lot of people. And another double digit is going to make it even more unaffordable for more people next year. Health insurance companies are seeking a medium rate hike of 14% for their 2027 ACA plans. Now, this is all a preliminary analysis by KFF. They're a health policy nonprofit that studies these things. These health companies have to put in kind of what they want in their increases to the government by a certain date in July. I'll have that date for you in a second. That's where we're getting this information. KFF analyzed filings from 77 insurance plans in 16 states. They also included Washington, D.C. in that. So nearly half of insurers are seeking 27 increases of 10 to 15% over this year's big rate hikes as well. Companies marketing 20 insurance plans are asking for rate hikes of 20% or more. The final amount, well, that could change because health insurers do have until July 15th in order to submit the paperwork on ACA insurance premium request for 2027. Federal and state insurers, regulators, they review the plans before finalizing the rate increases. So it could go down, right? They're asking for a lot. Could get lowered down a little bit, but you're getting another increase, which means your private insurance is going to be getting an increase again this year and a bigger amount coming your way. So prepare yourself now, because this is the second straight year ACA marketplace insurers have sought those double digit rate increases. The incentives have gone away as well, right? Kind of worked back in, but not what they once were. So prepare yourself now, folks, for an increase in health insurance next year coming your way. And not just an increase, a big increase coming up. Now, U.S. container imports, interesting enough, they were huge last month in June. They went up 8.2% in June from the year earlier. Now, we get this from a company called Descartes Systems Group. They're a supply chain technology provider. They came out with this reporting this morning, and that's because buyers are rushing in goods to avoid potential new tariffs coming their way in August. And also, right, everything's a little low right now in terms of gas prices. So they're trying to get advantage before higher transportation costs come back into effect. So U.S. seaports, well, they handled 2,400, excuse me, 2,400,627 20-foot equivalent units. Those are TEUs, is what they call them in the shipping industry in June. For the first half of 2026, imports were down 0.3% from the same period in 2025. And remember, in 2025, they were shipping in huge amounts up until April, getting ahead of the tariffs, and then it really slowed down after that. Analysts and shippers said many importers moved cargo early to front run a July 1st increase in ocean freight costs tied to container ship operators, basically adding, late. They're adding late to their high fuel costs that they've had over the last couple of months. They're putting it on at that point. So, kind of a retrospective oil prices being put into these contracts. And also, the U.S. is expected to impose new tariffs tied to forced labor at the end of July. We've talked about that with President Trump. China accounted for the most year over year growth in imports. Volume from China, well, it jumped 27.4% year over year. That's up to 814,474 TEUs just in June by itself. So we're having another surge of imports, getting ahead of the more expensive things coming the way, including new tariffs possibly coming up here in August out there. And now, like I said, not a ton of good news out there today for some reason. Today's the day everybody wanted to put their bad news out there, including Lending Tree. They are citing data that they found from Experian, the credit reporting company. The first quarter of 2026, yeah, the average monthly payment for a new vehicle, it rose 2.9% from a year ago, and it's at a record number, That record number is $770. Lease payments on new vehicles rose at a faster rate, about 3.2% up over the last year. That's on $619 on average throughout the first quarter. Used car payments, well, it's better, but still high. Smaller increase for used car payments over the last year. They only went up 1.5%, but the average monthly payment on a used car is $531. So it does vary, by the way, on tiers of your credit scores. Borrowers making the highest monthly payments on new vehicles, well, they're non prime borrowers with scores in the 601 to 660 range. They're paying about $811 in a month for the monthly payments. Then the subprime borrowers, those are the scores just below that, 501 to 600. They pay $792. Super prime borrowers, those are scores between 781 and 850. They had the lowest monthly payment at $753 for a new vehicle. Not that big of I know $50 is big, but not that big of a difference based off your credit reporting. The average auto loan amount in the first quarter was $43,925 for new vehicles, 27,070 for used vehicles. The new vehicle loan average rose from 43,582 in the prior quarter, but the average used vehicle loan actually declined from 27,528 in that same period. Borrowers with prime credit tier, that's the ones with the high ones, 661 to 780 credit scores. They actually took out the largest loans for new vehicles. Their average price was $46,244. The buyer of used vehicles, well, the borrowers in that subprime tier had the largest loan amount at $29,599. So outstanding auto loan debt, well, it's at $1.685 trillion nationwide in the first quarter of 2026. Well, that represents an increase of 57.3%, folks, from the first quarter of 2016. Yeah, that total was only $1.071 trillion. We get that number from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Look at that increase from 2016. Ridiculous what is happening with the pricing of these cars. While mortgages make up the largest share of U.S. consumer debt, that's at 70.2%. Auto loans, they account for only 9% at a total of the 1.685 trillion. But auto loans ranked as the second largest category of consumer debt as they narrowly exceeded that 1.658 trillion in student loan debt as well. So auto loan debt now higher than your student loan debts, folks out there. So if you've got a car recently, or if you have a car, hold off on buying a new one. The payments are going to be high with interest rates high, price of vehicles highest they've ever been, both new and used. So keep that in mind. And if you're tired of all this news here, right, the bad news, well, you want to get out of town? Well, just go catch a plane somewhere. Also expensive with those oil prices and gas prices for the airlines. And U.S. Airlines officially spent $6.66 billion in jet fuel in the month of May. The second straight month that fuel costs topped $6 billion. Now, it's no shocker, right? With oil prices higher, jet fuel's even higher there. The May figure for jet fuel was 84% higher than the year before. Airlines spent $6.47 billion on fuel in April. Eesh, that's why your airline prices are through the roof. The higher year over year spending, well, it's been driven by pricier jet fuel rather than a significant increase in how much of it the airlines consume. So it's strictly price on why they're spending more on it. U.S. carriers used 1.627 billion gallons in May. That was actually down about 0.6% from May of 2025. All pricing on why they're spending more. Consumption was slightly lower in April compared to April 2025. The average price airlines paid for fuel in May was $4.09 per gallon. They got a little bit of a break in May from April because it was $4.11 in April. But the problem is, right, so 2 cent savings, but that number is 85% higher than the $2.21 they paid in May of 2025. So you're feeling the pinch. Also, the airlines are feeling the pinch as well. So those prices still through the roof on the airlines, and that's why I looked up some airfares just out of curiosity the other day. Not that I'm headed anywhere, just some regular flights because I know what they used to cost. I used to fly them all the time. Holy moly, that's ridiculous. The price increases on those flights 3, 4, 5 months out. Whew. Travel if you have to, right? Otherwise, drive. Even though driving's not cheap either these days, right? And interesting enough, we all know the FIFA World Cup is underway and it's getting record ratings specifically here in the United States. Now, the U.S. has been eliminated, so we'll have to see if those record ratings continue. 30 million people per, event, especially when the U.S. plays. Well, it'll drop a little bit, but it's still going to stay at high numbers. I have no doubt about that. And the FIFA World Cup has captured massive global audiences throughout the world. And media companies, though, they're sitting there sharpening their pencils. They're preparing to get into the bid and pay billions for the rights for the next two men's tournaments coming up. Obviously, right now, Fox has the rights for the last World Cup and this World Cup. Netflix, Disney, Alphabet's YouTube, well, they're all saying they're interested in challenging Fox for those U.S. broadcast rights. Of course, we're talking 2030, 2034 World Cup. Amazon, they currently own the UEFA Champions League rights in the UK. Apple owns MLS rights as well, global MLS rights. They could enter into that mix and compete as well, which could lead to a bidding duel and fuel a potential bidding war for those rights. Discussions between FIFA and those potential media partners, they're expected to begin sometime within the next 3 months. And the interesting thing here, FIFA has alerted media companies during preliminary talks, which began earlier this year, that English and Spanish language U.S. rights they're going to be sold together this time. Last time was separated out there. That's why you got Telemundo and Fox as two separate entities selling those sites. Um, so they're combining them going into this next one. Fox, by the way, got a steal for this World Cup as the ratings are through the roof. Fox paid $485 million for the English language rights for this year's tournament. Obviously, hosted in American, and the ratings are through the roof. The problem that the next bidding cycle is going to have is, well, you don't have the World Cup in the U.S. the next two World Cups at minimum. So the ratings aren't going to be the numbers that you see now. Like next time it's in Morocco going to be some overnight games and things to that effect. They're paying now for ratings that are happening because it's in the U.S. Probably not going to get as high next time. Telemundo, they paid $600 million for the Spanish language rights as well for this World Cup. Executives of various media companies, they're budgeting between 1.5 and $2 billion for the U.S. rights to each tournament across languages. Yeah, the last time FIFA negotiated a deal with Fox and Telemundo was back in 2011. Now, FIFA just went ahead and extended that deal through 2026, which of course was, for this World Cup as well. Now they're making it into two sessions, combining the two. They don't sell international global rights. They do each because every country has different rules and regulations on how you can view World Cup soccer. And some people have to put it out over the air. Some can be streaming. It's probably going streaming for the next two. But this ratings plan here, with it being in the United States, the U.S. team playing so well, and before they got eliminated, it's huge numbers here coming up on the media side of things for the World Cup. And you're paying a premium based off of this year's numbers. Good luck to you out there, whoever gets those rights as well. Hey, when we come back here at McCollum on Business, we keep this Wednesday show going. Local stories for you. Katie Hobbs talked a little bit yesterday about the data center moratorium on tax breaks yesterday. We'll talk about that. A longtime school here in town is changing their name. You should be aware of it if you know anybody. Going into a pretty profitable and pretty big industry here in Arizona with things we have coming through. We'll make you aware of those changes, of course, and then Chick-fil-A doing something you might want to get in on, folks. I'll tell you about that as well. So come on back. I'll call them on business. Back here, McCollum on Business, Wednesday edition. You just saw the commercial there, of course, for the Real Matrix. Coming back this week. Took last week off with the 4th of July holiday. Coming back, new episode this week on Friday at noon. But you can find that programming over on Rumble, rumble.com/user/TME Media. Click on that. All the videos will pop up. Click on the channel button right above the videos, and all the show channels will pop up. Catch any of our shows there. McCollum on Business, the main event, the pit stop, which is out this week already for you, looking ahead to this weekend's racing. Lime Rock Park for the Truck Series, and of course, Echo Park over in Atlanta for the Cup. And the O'Reilly Series there, the pit stop available now on Rumble. And then, of course, the Real Matrix coming out on Friday at noon there. All the shows have, except for this one, have free podcast systems. If you'd rather listen to the show, well, you can find it there on your favorite podcast systems: Apple, Google, Spotify, Rumble, Podchaser, etc. iHeart. Just search the show name. It pops right up for you. Catch and listen to the audio versions of the show there. And then, of course, if you're not a Rumble fan or if you prefer Rumble, everything's over there, including the Real Matrix. Well, everything's on demand over at YouTube as well. And we're also live on YouTube. McCollum on Business is live on YouTube, 7 a.m. Monday through Friday. And then also the main event live on YouTube as well from 8 to 10 a.m. There as well, live on YouTube. If you can't watch us live, your boss is a slave driver, you got meetings in the morning, well, first of all, let me know. I'll send him an email and let him know you have bigger priorities than his work. And then number two, catch us on demand, both on Rumble and, of course, on YouTube later in the day. As soon as we're done with the live programming, we put it up on demand for you as well. So check that out. We'd appreciate it. Follow TME Media AZ on X as well. The main events on X, the pit stops on X, the pit stop talk. And follow us there as well and participate in the conversations. Folks, with all that being said, it's a rough day around these parts in the business world with the hostilities over there in the Middle East taking off again. Well, let's get back into the Market Watch. I'm just seeing if there's any updates out there. Now, Trump just saying this morning that the ceasefire is over in his eyes. He says the U.S. is going to, quote, hit them hard tonight, unquote. Hostilities over. The Dow is way down today, as you can see on your screen. Oil climbing up. It's moving from 4% closer to the 5% uptick here this morning with these hostilities. Coming back, the 10-year Treasury yield is up about 5 minutes before showtime. It was at 4.57% and it going up as well. So it's also the 10-year Treasury yield headed up today as uncertainty, inflation fears have hit the market again with these hostilities restarting in the Middle East. Dow Jones is down 628 points right now. S&P 500 is down to 42 points, as you see on your screen. Nasdaq's down 101 points. General sell-off today, but chip stocks having another rough day also on the market. Here, the Russell 2K down 24 points for it here today as well, that small cap index. Well, Bitcoin down as well, down under 62,000 today. Has been trading the last few days at 63,000. It's at 61,983. Bitcoin is here on this Wednesday as well. Stocks we're paying attention to now. We already told you energy stocks up. We talked about that in the first segment. And stocks to pay attention to. Airline, cruise lines, their stocks are all down today because obviously higher oil prices puts pressure on their bottom lines. And we haven't looked at this stock in a while, so we'll talk about SpaceX here as well. Now, yesterday, interesting enough, or today I should say, they're bucking the trade-off, the sell-off that's happening on the market today with all the uncertainty out there. SpaceX is 1.10% up here today, $1.65 up if you want to look at it that way as well. So they basically had a 6.5% decline yesterday as well. But look at that dollar amount total. 151.08 is what it's at right now, 8 cents. Why is that important? Well, yesterday, SpaceX actually fell below its IPO first trade price of $150. So the IPO amount was $135. The first trade price on the market was $150. Yesterday, it closed below that number. Today it's hovering at that number, 150 and 89 cents right now as well. So SpaceX, although it's barely up today, 0.98%, even with the sell-off, that's impressive. But again, trading at its first trade price of its IPO at that $150 as well. And all the investment companies came out with their perspectives, their future guidance. I saw some investment companies saying it's going to be over $800 here in the next year. Very everybody seems to be bullish on it, some bullish than others here, but at least today, back down to that original first trading price here for SpaceX. Next up, beauty manufacturer Estee Lauder. Well, they're down today 3.42% here in the market. It revealed in a regulatory filing that its estimated cost for its restructuring plans, well, that's going to now total $1.75 billion. Before they had said it was only going to cost around $1.55 billion. So the restructuring's costing more than expected. They're down 3.47% here today. Estee Lauder is on the market. And we're not sure. They changed the graphs. The service we use changed their graphs. So we don't know what's going on with the graph side of it there. But the numbers are correct here, folks. 3.64% down for Estee Lauder. And then Casa Grande Zone, we like to call it that. They have a manufacturing plant down there, and they're doing layoffs again in Casa Grande. We're going to look at Rivian Automotives as well, electric vehicle manufacturer. They announced the layoffs. They did a big stock sale to generate revenue. Stock was down after that, and they're down again today, 3.91%. Yesterday was the worst day for their stock since February 2024 for Rivian. Another bad day today with the sell off that's happening, 3.91% down right now. Rivian yesterday declined 18%. The company announced a public offering of 75 million shares, as we told you about, and stock to raise capital. The stock has not done well since they did that announcement. 18% down yesterday, 3.82% down today with this sell off. Rivian Automotive, folks, and I was on this, I think it was a Facebook page, but I was on some site uh, talking about how Rivian had promised all these jobs to Casa Grande, and people were moving there to work for Rivian Automotive and things, and now they're doing all these layoffs, so people have moved to Casa Grande, where there's not a lot of other big prospects down there. They've moved down there, obviously bought houses, rented down there in this high market. A lot of people upset at the way Rivian's running that business and trying to survive in this market and struggling at doing so as well. A local stories that you need to know out there. Katie Hobbs, she came out. Remember in the budget, the 3-year freeze on those new data center tax breaks was in this budget. Well, of course, she's taking credit for it, even though she, was in a big negotiation with her Republican counterparts here in the Arizona Senate. But Katie Hobbs said that freeze on those tax breaks is going to save Arizona about $57 million total. And she says that's money her administration is going to help fund childcare, rural hospitals, and food assistance in this year's budget. Now, she also said the state's not done reining in those data centers. So even Governor Katie Hobbs is getting on the data centers. Could be bad, right, for energy prices, water prices, etc. Not could be, they are, folks. Your energy and water bills are up because of the data centers here in town. Then anything you buy with a computer chip is through the roof as well because of data centers, not just here, but worldwide as well. So everything's getting more expensive around data centers. Now, Katie Hobbs did pledge action on energy costs and water use. Even though these data centers are still being built, they've been pushed through with this moratorium. We'll see if it continues with this tax break ending, but we have more coming our way as well. Hobbs' exact words were, quote, Arizona is a partner in progress. We are not a blank check, is what she said in that news conference yesterday. She says a state that puts servers before citizens is building for the future, but forgetting the people that have to live in it. You know what this tells me? It's elections. She's coming out against them because the tide has turned from the public on data centers. And she's going to capitalize on that to get your vote out there as well. So, Arizona, by the way, ranks in the top 10 nationally for data centers. 98 facilities are operating in Arizona, 86 are planned or under construction as well. here. Yeah. The Goldwater Institute came out with a study and ranked Phoenix as the number two market in the country for planned data centers as well, which just means more energy costs. Your electricity and your water bill is going to go up as these data centers come in as well. So Katie Hobbs signaled in that press conference yesterday. She didn't come out and say it. She just kind of hinted at it like politicians do. She wants to put more state limits on those data centers as well. So Katie Hobbs, I in data centers here. Like I said, election season, so be wary of that, of the talks that she makes out there. A long time refrigeration school here in town. You've heard the ads. You've seen it if you've driven around to certain areas, big signs and big schools out there. And they're one of the biggest ones in the western side of the United States. We're talking about Refrigeration School Inc., which you know it as RSI out there. Well, they're teaming up with Tulsa Welding School. They're a provider of specialized career education. So they both announced that RSI is going to change its name to Tulsa Welding School here in Arizona. And that change is coming pretty quickly. July 20th is when that's going to happen. It's part of a strategic initiative to unify its campuses under a single national brand, but also they want to preserve the legacy that has served Arizona students, employers, communities, of course, more than 60 years there with RSI. This is going to be confusing. I don't understand it. One's a refrigeration school, one's a welding tech, and changing the refrigeration school to a welding name just going to confuse everybody. I don't understand why you're doing it, but hey, they got groups that they do and studied it and everything as well. RSI's been around since 1965. It's trained generations of trade professionals and has a great reputation of excellence on hands-on education. So they're changing that name to Tulsa Welding. I don't get it. So the name change here and everything, it coincides with a significant campus expansion here for the schools. It's going to break down in the fall or break ground in the fall for the expansion. Continued investment in that campus there. I believe it's like 44th and Washington area, 40th and Washington roughly, is where you can find that RSI school out there as well, and things. But they're career focused training programs in electrical, welding, and HVAC refrigeration is what they do. And what they're going to do is they expand here coming up as well. So, name change for RSI. Just want to make you aware of it. I know a lot of us out there have kids, coming out of school, looking at trade schools and things like that. So, that's coming that way. And it kind of confuses me. I don't like it only because I think of RSI as a refrigeration school. And I'm not going to think of it as a welding school, and I'm going to get confused by it as I recommend it. Because I recommend RSI to a lot of people who want to go into that trades out there. And for some reason, we end this show always with food or drink stories, and today's no different, folks. Chick-fil-A. Now, until July 13th, so today is July 8th, folks. Several days remaining for this. Free waffle fries Chick-fil-A is giving out until July 13th. Now, got to be a catch, right? It's a medium waffle fry. Now you got to play the limited time spotting the cows game in his mobile app. It's how you have to do it to get the fries. But it's a freebie, and they're delicious waffle fries as well, if you like them. So it's the days leading up to Cow Appreciation Day on July 14th is what they're doing. So Chick-fil-A is offering customers, you can win a medium-sized waffle fry, and you play the game on the app to get those wild fries, and you don't get them every time. It comes around and stuff. Here's interesting that people are losing their minds about this. By the way, customers are tasked with playing Spot the Cows. It's a limited time digital game on Chick-fil-A app to redeem the fries. Now, USA Today went out and actually confirmed with Chick-fil-A that the instructions outlined by a couple of sites that follow these things will result in a free medium-sized waffle fry being added to your next order. Snackolator is the popular food and snack news brand. People follow them on X. They actually put out some rules on what you have to do to get those waffle fries, like how you beat the system. I guess we'll say it. Here's what Snackolator said on their X post. When Chick-fil-A runs these games, they are easy to win, but they might run out, so I play earlier than later. Once you win it, will be added into your account for your next order. There you go, folks. So get in there, get it early, is what they say, to get those free waffle fries before they run out, and before July 13th as well. Hey, did you know it's International Cow Day on the 14th of July? That's a new interesting fact we just learned as well. Of course, Chick fil A says the reward is available while supplies last at participating restaurants out there. So get in there on your free waffle fries by using the Chick fil A app as well. Hey, folks, I appreciate you joining me here on this Wednesday edition of McCollum on Business. We'll be back tomorrow, 7 a.m., of course. Get you updated on what's happening around the markets. It's going to be a tough day today with the hostile stuff happening in the Middle East. So don't look at your 401ks or your stock portfolios today, folks. But we'll be back tomorrow. Hopefully a better day. We'll find out. Oil prices up, Treasury yield up today, inflation fears hitting the market. See you tomorrow, everyone. Have a great Wednesday night. Stay cool out there if you're in the Phoenix area because it's hot.